Deanne, so wonderful to meet you. I have
Thank
to tell
you.
you, I am in awe of you, honestly. I
Oh,
I
funny.
always, no, seriously, like I thought when I walk every single day and I thought hitting 20,000 steps a day was a pretty good goal, but I got nothing. You got nothing on you. Like, honestly,
Are you doing 20,000 steps a day, Bonnie?
honestly, for since COVID, I've
Yeah.
barely missed a day. I've barely missed a
Okay,
day.
well, now it's time for me. That's amazing. I'm been
Yeah.
counting my steps as I'm doing this tour because I make sure I go for a walk every day. And
Yes.
I'm like high-fiving myself to hit the 10,000 mark. So you have my full respect. That's a
Okay.
huge commitment to
Well,
personal
next time,
care.
listen, next time you want to do a trek, call me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll join you.
Okay.
I'm
All
aiming
right.
that way.
All right. I know you're ready. That's for sure. Oh, you might make me look bad though.
I
I'm
don't
like, well,
really, honestly, no,
she's way faster than me.
there's no way. There's no way. But honestly,
Yeah.
and like, seriously, what you've accomplished in your life so far, not just this trek, like everything that you've done is quite astounding.
Oh.
Get into the headspace. Where do you go to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to walk the I'm going to conquer the Trans Canada Trail, across Canada. Look, where do you even start?
Well, I mean, first of all, from a professional perspective, as you know, I've made films on Everest. I've made a film in the high Arctic. So, making a film on the longest trail in the world wasn't that
Yeah.
crazy from that perspective. And then on a personal note, I just turned 50 and yeah, my marriage had ended and my dog of many years had died. And so the things holding me to one place were no longer there. And I thought, this is a really good time to take some time, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like check out to check in, just to make sure that I'm living in alignment with myself, that whatever I might do after in terms of rebuilding my life
Mhm.
was authentic and really solid. Life is this brief experience and you don't want to wake up one day and go, what have I just done for the last 40 years of my life?
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
it's important and we don't have time when we're busy all the time to take that kind of self-reflection. So from a professional perspective, making this film wasn't crazy. On a personal perspective, I was ready for this experience. So, tick, 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 right on the boxes. And then it was just a question of getting rid of all my bills,
Right.
which it took long. Like people always want to know about the training, but
Yes.
actually extracting yourself from a system that we live in, like, I had to mourn the cancellation of my New York Times subscription. There were just things I had to let go of. That was probably
Of
the
course.
toughest, but yeah, like you just have to get rid of all those monthly bills, all those weekly bills, all those monthly bills. I got rid of my home. Sold my car,
Yeah.
um, those that gave me some of the capital to invest in starting this project, but it also freed me up. All of a sudden, what my basic needs were per month were much less. Like I
Of
could
course.
actually, I mean, I shot and lived and paid people
Yeah.
uh for 20 grand a year, basically for 6 years. Like all the to make this film was only grant money and my personal investment.
Right.
It was only after the film was shot that I got the great partners that I have now in Paramount and Elevation. And I didn't. I mean, I have a great producer. There are two people that are imperative when you begin a project like this. One is a producer and one is the editor. For me, those are the two most important people. And I chose well. I chose a producer, Betsy Carson, with 40 years experience,
Hmm.
an incredible amount of integrity. Um, and I lucked into working with Tanya Marignac, the editor. And it was one of my favorite creative experiences. And these films are collaborative. I always tell people
Oh, of
when they're
course.
kind of giving
Yeah.
me the accolades, I'm like, look at that 4.5 minutes of credits, because
Yeah.
on those 4.5 minutes of credits are incredible collection of talented creative people, some of
Right.
whom I've known for decades. I mean, the illustrations in this film,
Yeah.
the
Yes.
animations, those
Yes.
are done by a visual artist named Cheryl McDougall. I've known her for 30 some odd years. And Cheryl has MS now, and she
Mm.
is wheelchair bound. She drew each of those drawings,
Amazing.
right?
Yeah.
And despite having MS, we were able to, she only worked with me, and we were able to create. She worked from home, and we, the stipulation was I can't be under any stress. I don't know if I can take this job. I can't have any stress, and I'm like, you will have no stress. I
Right.
promise you. You work at your own pace, and we'll make this work. So, you know, it's such an honor for me to have Cheryl's work in my work because she's an
Yeah.
artist that I've respected for so many years. Some of the music, two of the songs in this film are done by a woman named Chantel Thompson. Chantel and I go back 35 years. We met here in Toronto in my 20s when I was, you know, a member of Gallery 44. I had a darkroom here and I was more into the fine art photography at that time and
Yeah.
doing all kinds of images of women, like, you know, Waking Eve, you know, like getting women into knights outfits, saving the maiden, and just playing with, you know, classic mythologies and putting women in the elevated positions of being the shiro, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anyway, I met Chantel at that time, and I was always struck by just how beautiful her voice is, how talented she is. And she grew up, you know, went on to have a child and single mother and facing all of those challenges. And it's hard for her to like make it work to like both be a mother and be in the industry. So, you know, making this film, I had this incredible opportunity to invite her to participate, and she wrote two of the songs. And I love the fact that she's a part of this soundtrack, along with Joni Mitchell, who I also wrote a letter to,
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
asking her to be involved. So yeah, I mean, really, the collaborative part is what makes the film. If you can bring a great group of people together that can be as excited about the project, and you can give them, if you respect them, you can give them the creative freedom to choose, just say, just do your best work. And if you do
Yeah.
your best and I do my best and we all do our best, we're going to make a great film. And I also, you know, Bonnie, you know, being my age, and going to spend 9 years on a film, there's no way I was going to make something that didn't make people feel good.
For sure.
I knew it. There's
Yeah.
no way, like, I did not want to scare people. I don't want to make people afraid. There's enough of that. I
Yeah.
wanted to make something that, like medicine, just like when you leave this theater, I hope you feel better, and
Yeah.
I hope you feel just a little bit more hope about the
Oh,
world we
big
live in.
time. Yeah. I
You
mean,
know, I
very,
think,
very inspiring for sure. No
thank you.
question about it. But Dianne, when you know, set your mind to doing something like this, it's not just, okay, yes, all the things that you just mentioned, you know,
Mhm.
getting rid of your subscriptions and all, you know, selling your home, blah, blah, blah. You got to prepare mentally. Like you
Yeah.
have to. Well, how do you do that? Like, how do you, you know, take those first steps? And it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I thought this was going to take a year, but whoops, it took six, you know?
Well, let's
Like,
talk about that. So
yeah,
the capacity to adapt is an
right.
important thing. You have to, you know, if you're rigid, and that's the thing, if you over plan, is you become rigidly attached to that plan. And actually that's not what, you know, you have to adapt. And isn't that a great thing to be reminded about in life too, you know, the
Yeah,
power
yeah,
of adapt. You must be able to adapt to like whatever's unfolding. So number one is that, and sorry, Bonnie, what was that?
no, just about adapting mentally to take
Adapting
those first
mentally, that's
steps.
right,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, that's
So,
okay.
yeah, so before I left, after I got rid of all my bills, I spent 8 months in a very small village in New Brunswick called Saint-Damien. It's an Acadian village. It's where my mother was born. My mom
Mhm.
was number 13 of 14 children.
Wow.
So there's just a handful of them, my family and my relatives that live there now. But that's where I returned. I could live for free, essentially, in the old
Right.
farmhouse.
Yeah.
No one was living in there, and I could train. But when I say train, I mean psychologically train. It meant
Yes.
like I could go for weeks without having a conversation with somebody, and getting used to being alone. So how I never used to meditate, but in that time of preparing for this journey, I realized I think I'm going to need to learn how to meditate. I think I need like a few tools in my bag here that I can bring with me to just really relax into that. Remember to find my breath, stay with my breath, and really focus on being in the moment. So, and not letting that crazy narrative in our heads get too carried away. You know, you
Mm,
really, when it does, panic will kill you. So you have
right.
to
For
have
sure.
tools that
Yeah.
you can go to if you start to feel that, like if you're out in the middle of somewhere and you suddenly start to feel like you're in danger, you know, you need to calm down. And so you have tools. There are tools for that. That's what's
Yeah.
amazing, is that all of us can access and all of us can learn. And I was, yeah, I could see the need for it. And so that's how I prepared, really. I would
Yeah.
say I did that kind of preparation more than the physical. Like I was outside running, walking,
Yeah. Yeah.
cross country skiing, but no, most of the physical training was on the job training in in
Right.
year one, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Oh, for sure. Like, yeah, listen, yeah, you're forced to
Yeah.
do things that you're not, you don't know. It's the
Yeah.
unexpected. And that's when
Yeah.
you talk about danger and taking a breath and all that, like, just even encountering animals that
Mm.
might have been, I mean, wow, like yeah, what scared you the most through this whole journey? And what was the most calming? So two things there.
Well, it's interesting. Like, one of my favorite times were when some of my old friends came out and joined me. So, that emotional reconnection with people that I loved and being able
Right.
to share the experience with them. But it was also the scariest time for me because it's one thing to make a choice and for yourself. But like, if I thought for 1 second that somebody would come out and join me and then be injured or worse,
Yeah.
that was a hard thing and people were like, hey, I'm making my own decision, Dee. This isn't for you to hold. Like I'm making this choice to come out there with you, but it doesn't matter. If it wasn't for the fact that you were doing what you were doing, that they wouldn't be in those situations. So it's hard to not feel a sense of responsibility on that level. But, I was always really careful on my own. And I usually
Mhm.
had to slow down. Like my friends would come out and because they would only be out there for a few weeks, they were all gung ho,
Sure.
and I'd be like, no, we really got it. And they're like, why aren't we going? And I'm like, well, I don't trust the water right now. It doesn't look that bad. It's just a 2 foot wave. And I'm like, yeah, no, we're going to chill. We're going to
Yeah.
wait. And because they were just so excited to be out there. And it's like, yeah, the way I do this is like, I'm the pussycat of the adventure film world. Like I'm like in full humility that nature is way more powerful than I am. And let's
Yeah.
face it, Bonnie, wind and rain can erode a mountain. So
100%.
what
Yes.
chance do I have, right? So, it's just, and maybe
Yeah.
also just a respect for nature and a respect for being out there. So yeah, I brought a very, and when my friends came, ramped it up even more so in terms of like, how we moved and the care that we took in doing so.
Yeah. But also, here you are, you've got to worry about all that and just surviving. And now
Yeah,
you're shooting yourself too. Like,
that
I
was
know what
hard.
you like challenging beyond
Yeah,
like what was that?
that was the hard part, Bonnie.
Right. Tell me about that
Yeah,
process because
making
you're,
the film. Oh my God. Well,
yeah,
I'll tell you, when I first started looking at the footage, all 800 hours of it, I was like, oh my God, my cinematography is terrible in the beginning of this film. Like there's a lot of like falling cameras and like, whoa,
yeah,
and I'm like, oh yeah, what about that position of that GoPro down my shirt? Like, what was I thinking, right? Like, oh my gosh. But then what was so
yeah,
cool was as I watched more and more of the footage was to see how the cinematographer, like I found my grounding because I'm a great cinematographer, but it was so hard, like the
yeah.
physical exhaustion, especially at the beginning of like I was literally like crawling into the tent at the end of the day. So
Wow.
it was like, oh God, I got to get the tripod. I got to get a shot. I got to do this. I got to do that. And, fortunately, as I got more in shape, as I was out there longer and I could just found my rhythm. And so in the beginning, I would say it was more about just doing the physical journey, just like hanging in there. And then as I got better, the filmmaking really became more prominent. Always by year 3, it's like the film is first.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Oh, no, I might not be moving today because there are 2,000 snow geese that just landed and I'm going to crawl in the mud and I'm going to set up my tripod and I'm hanging out with these snow geese. I'm filming these snow geese. And if they're there for 2 days, I'm there for 2 days. Like, then the shot became the journey, like
Yeah.
the filmmaking. But for the first little while, the filmmaking was like, oh yeah, the filmmaking, like it was, but that's what's wonderful about a long journey is that you got
Yeah.
time,
Keep
you
getting
know?
better and better. Exactly.
Yeah.
Time
And
to
you know
talk,
what?
Yeah.
As a filmmaker, like when I was on Everest, I knew I had to get the film in the can in 40 days. That's a lot of
Right.
pressure.
Yes, it
I
is.
had none of that pressure, right? I had creative freedom and like no pressure because I knew I had this amount of time,
Yeah.
right? That I could just relax into it.
Yeah.
And
That
and
that was
how
going to
many
be one of my
times?
questions. Yeah. How
Yeah.
this journey was different than the others that you've taken, but sure, exactly. You
But
didn't
they
have,
were shorter, so
yeah,
that meant, you know, in the Arctic, I had to get the film in the can in a month. On
right.
Everest, I had to get the can, and you know, and that's like, whoa, right? It's intense. Whereas I never felt that kind of pressure filming 500 days in the wild. In fact, it was indulgent. I would be like, oh my God, there's beautiful light coming through the trees. And usually in life, you're like, oh, I wish I could take this shot, but I need to get to wherever the hell I'm going right now. This
Yeah.
time I could be like, no, guess what? Stop, take the shot.
So
You know,
would
so
you,
it
yeah,
was awesome.
yeah, I can imagine. Okay. Would you do it again?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I wouldn't like now that I've done it, don't ask me
Yeah.
to do it again. I don't,
Okay,
my
but
life's too
something,
short.
so
But
what's next? Like,
um,
how do you, what would be
oh,
above
Bonnie, I
this?
have what's next brewing in my mind.
Oh,
But
good.
I do
Okay,
not kiss
good.
and tell. I do
Yeah.
not kiss and tell
No,
until
no,
I
that's
start
okay.
production.
Yeah.
I do not talk about my next film
All
because
right.
I'm not there yet. I'm preparing for it.
Good.
But once I start, I'll do the same thing. I'll share the production process with people and allow them to be a part of the journey as I did this one, because that was
Yeah.
also really rewarding, you know,
Yeah.
just creating and being able to share like that. But yeah, this year is all about 500 days. And right now it's all about letting the world in Canada know anyway, that it
Yes.
doesn't matter if you're in Tuktoyaktuk or you're in Cape Breton or you are in some small island off the coast of northern BC, you can
Yeah.
now watch 500 Days in the Wild on Paramount Plus. That's what
Yeah.
I love about streaming, is it
Yes.
just gives people access all through this country. And that as an artist is, well, that's the ultimate, right? People
100%.
have access to the work.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I agree with you. Like it just, yeah, it opens it up to so many more people that can see it. And
Yeah.
just lastly, how on earth does a journey like this change you as a person?
Oh gosh, it's so many ways. It's really and you know, not just the journey, but the people I met really on the journey that changed me as well, right?
Yeah.
I would say that my time in Indigenous communities, listening and learning, profoundly changed the way that I see the world and my
Right.
connection to the natural world.
Yeah.
As that scene in the film, you know, where you see there's, after a few years of listening, finally it went from my mind into my heart, you know. And while I was paddling Lake Superior, I really did feel this shift from being on the water to being with the water, you know. And so I found a lot of healing, you know, with Cecilia Brooks and the two-eyed ways of seeing, you know, the Western world and the Indigenous world working together
Yeah.
to get a more balanced picture of the ecology. Ideas like that give me hope, because there's a way, there's a path, there's, you know, and just the kindness of people. Like, you think about being out there for 6 years, you think I could have met one grumpy person, but I didn't.
That's
People were
amazing.
all kind to me, and
Yeah.
from all walks of life, from all political parties, from all whatever. And who even knows what the politics were, because nobody talked about it,
Yeah. Who
because it
cares?
didn't matter. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
irrelevant, totally
Exactly.
irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and just being reminded, yeah, we're different, right on, let's celebrate that, but we're also the same. We share the same home. We need the same, we all need fresh water, you know, we all need clean air.
Yeah.
The air we breathe goes around the planet in a week, so there's no, this is yours and this is mine, it's just ours.
Yeah.
And we're only 0.001% of all life on Earth. We are part of a web of life here. And as I keep telling people, I love these telescopes that are pointing out into space. How exciting. Oh my gosh, it's just like unbelievable artwork out there, and
Mm.
that, you know, but I don't want to live on Mars. I don't want to live on Jupiter. Like, I don't
Mhm.
want to live on the moon, you know. They're dead planets. We are
Yeah.
living on a living planet. And yeah, that's enough to share, you know.
Oh,
That's
that's
enough that
amazing.
we got to figure out, you know, we are yesterday's descendants, but we are tomorrow's ancestors. So we
Yeah.
do have a responsibility. This stuff isn't free, you know, it comes with the responsibility of taking
For
care of it.
sure.
And
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, you were really an inspiration and honestly an honor for me to talk to you
oh,
this morning. I
Bonnie,
really
thank you.
appreciate it. Yeah, thank
Thank you.
you. And we'll get that word out there. We will make sure people see this because it's like
Right
I said,
on.
wow, wow, you've really inspired me. Maybe I'll up it to 21K a day. I don't know. We'll see. Thank you so much for your time and have a good time here in Toronto.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Okay, take
Take
care.
care.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.